I believe that Brady will be gone. But my reasoning is more than just, it has to do with the money or even him being hurt, which he has to understand that every player, they get rid of you sooner or later. The NFL's average life is 3.5 years. That was 1946 when I went to my first training camp. And that's the irony. With all the improvements in the game, it's still only 3.5 years. It's the most violent sport. You can get wiped out so quickly. But in the case of Brady, I'm putting on my messy general manager's cap and not paying any attention to the crap that I've heard for the last 4 or 5 days. If you're sitting here and you're looking at one of the greatest quarterbacks in history, already won you 6 Super Bowls, but now it's year to year. And you've got to ask yourself, if you're Belichick, and this is where I think the decision, unless Bob stops hanging in Palm Beach and comes back here. I know, bad shot, but anyway, that's life in the big city. But in this case, unless Kraft steps in, and Kraft has been very, very smart. If I take the 3, let's start with Kraft. He wants a plausible out. So what does he do? He goes to Peter King and says, Tom asked us to essentially be a free agent. He deserves that. Now, let's face it. If you really loved him, do you want him to be a free agent? If you really want him back? Or does that give you kind of a Pontius Pilate, I'm washing my hands and, if he goes, he goes. That's the first of the equation. The second of the equation, the coach is also the general manager. I'm talking as the general manager. If you ask me about Brady, what I would do, I would say, unless something drastically changes, I've got to move on. He wants to play to 45, that's okay. And I think he'll continue playing, whether it's here or someplace else. But if I'm asking myself, what do? I'm in transition. Whether it's Stidham, who they seem to like, or whatever it is. Let me say, if I bring Tom back for 1 more year, and even if I win the Super Bowl, which I don't think they will, because they've got to retool. You've got to retool the offensive line, wide receivers. They're going to lose a lot on defense. They're one of the oldest defenses in the league. And I'm saying to myself, is it time to move on? In my opinion, as great as he is, it's time to move on. And I think that's what Belichick's thinking. Whatever comes out in the end, whatever comment you hear out of his mouth, whatever Kraft says, I'm betting in the back of Belichick's mind, it's time to move on. I think that he would have, if he had his own way, would have kept Garoppolo. By the way, I'm not saying Garoppolo is the answer. He still has to prove yet. I think that Belichick could have won with him. I think that they would have been good enough, particularly at that time. But I think it was forced out of here. If Garoppolo wins this year, then we can say, okay. But at that time, that was the crucial time that I think the coach was really saying, then it's time to move on. The owner said, I ain't going to be embarrassed. I can't do it. Okay, that window passed. But now if you have to ask yourself realistically, and listen, I could be wrong, but if you're asking me the future isn't now. So I think that's, they can go on, talk radio, and do this crap for the next 36 days. I think Brady knows what he's going to do, and I think Belichick knows what he's going to do. Yes, sir.